Good day. I'm Daniela Ellerbeck, the Legal Advisor to Freedom of Religion South Africa, commonly known as 4SA. Joining me today is 4SA's Executive Director, Michael Swain. Now, Michael was invited by the CRL Rights Commission to a dialogue that requested delegates to provide input to the CRL, firstly on what the definition of a religious community is, and secondly, what religious community rights are. Now, the CRL already conducted similar investigations last year, or engagements last year in 2022 in Gauteng, and they're seeking input from the religious community because they're considering putting forward a bill to amend the CRL Act. Now, Michael, first and foremost, can you give us some background information on the CRL Rights Commission, what they are and what their job is?
Yes, the CRL is an institution of state. It's set up by Chapter 9 of the South African Constitution because the drafters consider that there are some areas of government and constitutional rights that are so important they require a special level of protection. So other Chapter 9 institutions that people may have heard of would be the South African Human Rights Commission, the Electoral Commission, the Commission for Gender Equality, and of course the Public Protector. Now the CRL Rights Commission is for the protection and promotion of rights of three distinct groupings, what their letters stand for: cultural, linguistic, and religious rights. The other important thing to know is that these commissions have very different focuses, but they also have different powers. So, for example, a resolution and directive issued by the Public Protector is binding. And this was demonstrated when then Public Protector Thuli Modonsela issued a report which exposed the fact that Jacob Zuma had benefited in his personal capacity from upgrades to his Nkandla residence. Now, by contrast, the CRL doesn't have this type of power. Although the previous CRL chairperson, Mrs. Toka Kaluva, did try to push for the CRL to become the final arbiter of what was acceptable religious doctrine and belief. And we, 4SA, and many others fought for years against what we clearly saw as an attempt to impose state regulation of religion, because it was in fact an overreach of power. It was not granted either by the Constitution nor by the CRL Act. So the primary role of the CRL then is to protect and promote respect for and further the protection of the rights of religious communities, and of course to promote peace and friendship and humanity, tolerance, mutual respect, and national unity among and within religious communities. So the CRL in particular has now, of course, called for this dialogue because the definition of religious community is in fact not defined in the CRL Act of 2002. And that is part of their desire to see this in a future bill to amend the Act.
All right. Now, turning to 4SA, which is an organization that has a deep understanding of the right to religious freedom as found in Section 15 of our Constitution's Bill of Rights, and 4SA monitors carefully every potential threat to erode this right, whether it's from bills or policies or in court cases or other issues arising. Why would 4SA be concerned about the definition of religious communities and the related religious community rights?
Well, it's important that we see this in the context of what the Constitution means when it says in Section 15 that everyone has the right to freedom of conscience, religion, thought, belief, and opinion. Because this is a fundamental and inalienable individual right. That means that each person is entitled to religious freedom, and it vests in you simply by the fact that you're a human being. And of course, nobody can take away that right to religious freedom. And of course, the other thing is that it's integrally connected with other fundamental rights, such as equality, dignity, freedom of expression, and importantly, freedom of association. So it's a vital baseline component of our constitutional democracy. Now, there have been many cases which have held this out, but another key element, of course, of this faith right is that it is independent and neutral. So it protects all faiths equally, and of course, even those who have no faith at all. And it's doctrinally neutral. It doesn't prescribe any religious content to any faith or faith community. So here's some of the things that are important to know about it. Even if a belief which may be bizarre, illogical, or irrational, or incapable of scientific proof is put forward, it is still protected. It isn't just something that applies to the more traditional faiths, such as Christianity or Islam or Judaism. You can believe in the man in the moon if you want to, and your right to religious freedom is still protected. And it further protects not only the right to entertain such religious beliefs as a person chooses, but also it's much broader. it declares it's their right to express that openly and without fear of hindrance or reprisal. And it also that the right to manifest those beliefs by worship and practice or by teaching and dissemination. So the Constitutional Court has confirmed that the right to believe or not to believe, or to act or not to act according to a person's belief or non-belief, is one of the key ingredients of any person's dignity. And that means that all expressions or manifestations of this faith can and must be protected with the Constitution and in terms of this provision.
All right. And then, of course, obviously, because of Section 8 of the Constitution, the right to religious freedom in Section 15 also extends to juristic persons, to the nature applicable, to the extent applicable because of the nature of the right. So in light of this, how would 4SA define a religious community?
Well, this is really where it starts to get interesting, because religion is such a fluid thing. And because faith is fluid, religious communities are also of necessity going to be fluid. There could be a new religion being imprinted even as we're speaking. And that should, of course, not only be recognized, but also protected. And so that immediately raises the question whether it's even practical, legally, or even constitutionally desirable to define what a religious community is or what it is not. And so what we have to also look at is that if you formalize a definition of a religious community, that can be unnecessary. Because as soon as you try to pin something down, to pin down a phenomena that is literally complex and changing constantly by trying to define what a religious community is, it's probably going to be better to look on a case-by-case basis and then consider in a particular instance, is a community which claims to be religious actually, in fact, a religious community, and therefore to be protected under this particular provision of the Constitution. So a flexible approach is important, we believe, because otherwise you might actually end up excluding people from protection rather than actually protecting everybody, which is obviously what this whole religious freedom right is intended to do.
No, exactly. And I mean, as you rightly said, Section 15 extends not just to religion, but to opinion, belief, conscience. So it's very wide, and one can't define a religious community without defining religion. And so as soon as you start trying to hedge those, and you're going to exclude people who should be protected. So in light of that, Michael, what are religious community rights?
Well, again, Section 31 of the Constitution sets out and protects the rights of, obviously including religious communities, to actually enjoy their culture, to practice their religion, and to form and join and maintain religious associations and other organs of civil society. And so, whereas Section 15 protects religious belief, Section 31 protects religious practice, and that, of course, includes observances and the dissemination of religious beliefs in community with others. Obviously, community is a critical element of how we actually live out our faith. And what is the worth of a faith that actually cannot be practiced both publicly and privately, alone or in community of others? And so, again, the Constitutional Court has made multiple rulings on this particular matter. And it is very, very clear that it is a right that is protected both with you as an individual and also as you celebrate it in community with others.
So, Michael, how did the meeting with the CRL Rights Commission go? What happened and how did it conclude?
Well, it was a very interesting meeting. In fact, it ended up being almost a 2-hour discussion, and we covered a lot of very important ground. And I believe we developed a very good understanding. We were clear, 4SA is very clear, and of the strong view that attempting to define what a religious community is or is not actually won't advance the right to religious freedom, or for that matter, the rights to religious communities in South Africa. In fact, on the contrary, the potential for such definition, we believe, is neither practical nor constitutionally desirable, because depending upon how you define it, or almost inevitably however you define it, it has the potential, therefore, to deprive some people from their enjoyment of this critical constitutional rights. And so we basically said to the CRL that we believe that it isn't a good idea to try and define this in a future amendment bill. And simply, we obviously encourage them to continue the valuable role they play in upholding and promoting our right to religious freedom given to us in the South African Constitution.
Michael, thank you so much for the excellent work done. It is really appreciated. So, turning to how people can stay up to date with the work that 4SA does, we would say that the best place to do that is our website, www.forsa.org.za, where you can watch informative videos and read our latest articles, as well as see whether or not there are any issues that you can get involved in regarding religious freedom rights. We often post bills that are open for comment or policies and so forth on our website. So it definitely is the best place to stay up to date with what's happening. Otherwise, you can also see our Facebook page at Freedom of Religion SA. Until next time.
Good day. This is Daniela Ellerbeck, the legal advisor to Freedom of Religion South Africa. Remember to like and share this video and then click on the subscribe button to make sure you never miss our video updates on vital religious freedom issues.